From escaping Communist Albania as a teenager to building a global personal brand that empowers thousands, Elona Lopari is proof that clarity of purpose can rewrite any destiny. Today, Elona is known as the Visionary Leaders Coach, an international speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of The Life School, where she helps mission-driven CEOs scale legacy-driven empires without sacrificing their values. But behind the title is a story of grit, reinvention, and a deep calling to turn pain into purpose. After spending over a decade climbing the corporate ladder at Fortune 500 companies, Elona walked away from comfort to build something bigger than herself. She now advises entrepreneurs across the world on aligning strategy with soul, profit with purpose, and leadership with legacy. Her work has been featured on major stages and top media outlets, but it's the internal transformation she facilitates in her clients that leave the lasting mark. She believes entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey disguised as a business one, and that success without alignment is just another form of burnout. This is the story of how one woman turned vision into vocation and why the next generation of leaders won't settle for anything less than a life fully aligned. And before we start the episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth and the Deep Wealth Mastery Program. Here's Bill, a graduate, who says, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program has transformed the KPIs we're using to accelerate growth and profits. Or how about Emery, who says, and I love this, and I quote, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program helped me create the right mindset for both growing my business and later my future exit. I now know what questions to ask, what to do and not to do, which is priceless. The team and I have found dangerous skeletons and gaps that we're now addressing due to the Deep Wealth Program. Today, our actions have a massive ROI. Absolutely love that. And now, speaking of growth and adding value, check out what Bruce says. And I quote, as a business owner, I'm always looking for new programs, systems, CEO peer groups, and strategies to improve my business. Hands down, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program is the absolute best. I'm both growing my business and preparing for a future exit at the same time. It doesn't get any better. And I got to tell you, as I hear these testimonials, this is exactly why I do what I do. My mission, the team's mission here at Deep Wealth, is to literally change the social fabric of society, one business owner at a time and one liquidity event at a time. The Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it's the only one based on a 9-figure deal. And that was my deal. You know my story. I said no to a 7-figure offer. I created a system that we now call Deep Wealth Mastery, and that's exactly what helped myself and my business partners welcome from a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure deal. So if you're interested in growing your profits, preparing for a future liquidity event, whether that's 3 years away or 33 years away, and if you want to optimize your post-exit life, Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. Please email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. We'll send you all the information about the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, otherwise known as the Scale for Ultimate Sales System. Better yet, why not hop on a complimentary strategy call? We'll see where you are at your business and what's standing between you and your financial independence and your dreams. So that's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you who are looking to create market disruptions. Whether you're a startup, whether you've been in business for 3 or 4 decades, whether you're manufacturing, whether you're high-tech, SaaS, low-tech, whatever the case may be, come on in and network with other business owners, with other businesses just like you, because they all want to lock in their financial freedom and enjoy both success and fulfillment. Again, the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Please send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Deep Wealth Nation, welcome to another episode of the Deep Wealth Podcast. Deep Wealth Nation, let me ask you this. I'm going to say 2 words, purpose and profit. And when I say those 2 words, are they aligned? Are they at the opposite ends? Do you even know what one is over the other? Would you like some clarity on that? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today and a whole lot more. Elona, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. And I know there's always a story behind the story. What is your story? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and creating such a beautiful space to be able to share our journeys and experiences with others. I also personally believe that is how we learn, grow, and we get to at least kind of speed some of the things through our journey that maybe we learn from somebody else's experience. So I guess I'll begin with when I migrated to New York, specifically from Albania at the age of 15. Seen a lot of struggle with my parents, was fed the American dream very early on for my dad, that get a college degree, be very successful financially, buy a home, get married, have kids, white picket fence and all of that. So I pursued that for actually 15 years. I got my bachelor's, climbed the corporate ladder. My first job was for Walgreens Boots Alliance, a Fortune 500 company. And I was very happy there for many years. I was promoted every couple of years. I was pretty entrepreneurial inside a big corporation, which obviously I didn't know until I came out on my own to become an entrepreneur. But as I climbed the ladder, went all the way to regional director, I really started to question some things, and I was still feeling very unhappy. So that's kind of where the moment of pivoting, I guess, happened for me. And the company also changed its culture to be very profit driven. So I had a firsthand look at what the difference was between purpose and profit, which later on happened to be the mission and the work that I was doing. But obviously, I didn't know that at the time. So I started to seek answers as to why I was feeling unhappy, why the American dream was not really what I envisioned it would be. I had all the things on the outside, but on the inside, I was meaning and purpose behind what I was doing. So that was my search to eventually the company acquired another company. A lot of positions were shifted. So my husband said, why don't you just try to do this on your own? Because you've got a lot of experience already. So that was my journey to entrepreneurship, which seemed to be also purpose seeking, but also me building and creating something, I guess, from experience or from zero into where I am today. So that has led a lot of the passion and the fire behind why I do what I do. And now I know there's a better way to be an entrepreneur and to build a company that starts with purpose. And then, of course, aligns the profit piece, which is important in scaling and growing any company. So that's some of the most pivotal moments in my journey that led me here.
My goodness, so much there to unpack. But let me ask you this. Let's go back to where you were born in Albania. And we take it for granted when we're born here in the US, North America, in a democracy, we just kind of take that as a given. But you weren't. So you're in communist Albania. You then come here to the US. Looking back now that you've experienced both systems, how did that play a role, if it played a role?
Yeah, I think it's lack of opportunity. It's kind of what was the thing that drove also my dad specifically. Obviously, my parents felt that the most because I was still a teenager. So I think lack of opportunity, not being able to explore the ourselves and the things that we're able to do. And that was the thing that America provided, at least very early on. That's kind of what I always heard. One of the first things that my dad told me in the airport when I was driving to, that was our trip from there to here. Like, you can be anything you want to be here. So I think that it's the big dream, the big vision of opportunity and freedom and diversity, which is something that I came to appreciate from just also living in New York specifically over the years. But those three things which were missing back home.
It almost seems as though there's a segment of society, a growing segment of society, that seems to really idealize, let's just say, non-democratic ways of things, non-entrepreneurial things, more on the communist side of things. What would you say to us as we're seeing this in the headlines and in the news of people looking away from the beautiful system that we've created? Not perfect, for sure. Capitalism has many flaws, but it's the best system around and it works. What would you want us to know about that, having been in both circles?
I value the freedom piece. Also learning throughout my journey and my experience. I think freedom, the system allows you to be yourself and to explore your own things and your own journey and for you to explore your own potential, then I'm okay with that. I think a free human being, a free person exploring, making their own choices is what I believe in, and without interference from other sources, let's call it that, or other systems that can influence our choices. But yeah, I mean, if any of those systems support that, that's kind of what I'm all about. So hopefully those are still the things that are valued and can lead us for many years to come, obviously, with the advancement of AI and technology and all the changes that are happening. But to me, freedom is a really important thing. Freedom to be creative, freedom to explore my own choices, freedom to choose the things that matter to me, freedom to explore myself, which I've realized is the most important thing that we can do. And then, yeah, freedom to make the choices that fit us and intuitively align with what we want to do.
Oftentimes as you're talking about that, it's so easy to forget what's right in front of us, just to take that for granted until it's no longer there and then it's too late. So I really appreciate you being able to share that. And Deep Health Nation, when you go to the show notes, everything's going to be in there. In the links, though, there's going to be a link to some of Elona's books. Pick up her most recent book. We're going to be talking about that in a moment. Visionary Purpose-Driven Leadership, Connecting the Dots to Aligned Sustainable Business Success. Pick that up, go through it. You'll come out of it a whole lot better than when you went into it. And let me ask you this, because Elona, as you shared when we started our conversation, you didn't start off in the entrepreneurial world. You started off in the corporate world. And for a lot of people, that's the dream. I'm going to go into the corporate world, do some really terrific things, and I'm going to ride out the rest of my career there. And then for some, it works out terrific. Others, it doesn't. In your case, you changed. You changed midstream. What was it? Was there a particular moment? Was it a group of things that were happening that made you realize that, hey, maybe the corporate world is great for others, it's just not for me?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of inside and outside factors. The inside factor being that I was no longer, because there were so many changes in the culture, and I really seen just people just were just numbers at that point, and there wasn't a lot of emotional connection between the work I was doing and the way that I was valued for what I was doing, and I didn't really see a future. I think that was the outside factor that kind of just made me look elsewhere, so to speak. And then the inside factor was just the fact that I felt like I already had grown and kind of reached a certain level there that it's not going to serve me anymore. So I just felt like I've been here, done that. What else is there? So it just felt like a moment of transition, and I needed to explore what else was there internally. So I think those two factors coming at the same time made me kind of explore entrepreneurship as an individual endeavor, which I never thought I would be an entrepreneur because I didn't really have very successful entrepreneurial examples around me at that time. So yeah, I would say those two factors.
And so it's interesting. So you now flip and you come to the entrepreneurial world. Welcome. Great to have you, by the way. I love our community and what we do. And entrepreneurs, for me, find very painful problems, solve them, make the world go round, help people enjoy life that much more. And what's interesting, in the book, Visionary Purpose-Driven Leadership, right off the bat, you don't waste any time. You talk about conscious leadership. And I'm going to quote, conscious leadership, it's a leadership approach that emphasizes self-awareness, authenticity, and a deep understanding of one's values, purpose, and the impact of their actions on others and the world. And so on paper, as I read that, okay, I'm checking the boxes. Yes, 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 yes. I can do that. It makes sense. In my own experience, though, it's always easier said than done. So I'm going to ask a question, and you'd be completely right to say, Jeffrey, that is such a general question. Every person is different. They have their own journey. But that said, I'm going to ask it anyways. Are there patterns that you're seeing? Is it the good old Pareto's law, the 80-20 principle, that as entrepreneurs, when it comes to not just leadership, but conscious leadership, 20% of these actions or inactions are creating 80% of what some people call problems. I call them opportunities. Or in other words, where are we just getting it wrong?
Yeah, I think that is something that I've learned along my journey of kind of being an entrepreneur. It's also the best school for personal development. And I realized that every time I grew or I had a success or my business was going in the right direction that I really felt like it connected to, was when I was following my intuition and I was self-aware to see the dots to be able to connect them. And every time that I was stressed, burnout, hustle mode, all those things that I was taught that I needed to do to be successful were taking me to burnout. And I have burned out many times and of course frustrated with the results. So I just always seek answers. I'm like, there's gotta be a better way to be able to let this process flow while still obviously doing all the business traditional things, which is a lot of rinse and repeat actions, which tie into our priorities. So that's where conscious leadership came up for me. Also in my own personal development as a human being and realizing the very close connection between the personal development and also my business growth and development as well. So just learning how to apply a lot of those principles, maybe a happier person, because at the end of the day, I mean, what's the point of growing something, especially because we are creating and solving a problem from scratch many times? What's the point of going through all the challenges that it takes if we're not going to be happy with what we're doing or even our personal lives and be able to, I don't like the word harmonize, but just to be happy and fulfilled in other areas. So that's where I realized it made the connection with, in order to be fulfilled in what we do, not just happy with it, there's other components, which conscious leadership and a lot of principles I wrote about in the book are important to keep top of mind as we are going through the journey of growing or creating or just building anything. So that's kind of how I tapped into some of the concepts that I wrote about in the book, which is more of an alignment between the personal and the professional.
Sure. And so I love how part of this comes from your own journey, others comes from working with entrepreneurs in your coaching practice. And one of the things that I found, and you can share Jeffrey on base or off base, oftentimes when we're not getting it right, it's not that it's intentional. It's just, I don't know what I don't know. It's a blind spot to me. And that's why we call it a blind spot. And in fact, in our 90-day mastery program, Deep Wealth Mastery, we talk about business blind spots, otherwise known as inflection points, that if left unchecked, forget an exit, it'll just put you out of business or you'll lose out to the competition. So when it comes to leadership now, what would be a few ways outside of coaching with you and getting your wisdom and your guidance, what could I be doing on my own to identify those leadership blind spots that are holding me back?
I think getting the support of other people has always been something that once I discovered it, I'm like, I'm never going to stop it, because obviously we can do our own work, but we don't, as you said, see all the things that might be holding us back as leaders. And especially because you're the main decision maker of your company. And a lot of times your team depends on those decisions and everybody, your clients, your customers. But it's almost like a responsibility to be able for you to keep tab on those blind spots at every phase and stage of growth, because whatever blind spots showed up at a certain stage of growth, it's not necessarily going to be the things that show up in the next stage, unless you haven't dealt with them. They actually tend to repeat. So that's the other thing that we want to be aware of. But I think it's just always getting support from the outside, getting a perspective inside in. It's really always very helpful. And then I think it's also having a practice where you're tapping into your values, your vision, and your mission, and staying really connected to that and keeping clear with that, because business has a thing of distracting us, right? It could be that obviously you had the clarity, but you kind of lose this connection with why you're doing what you're doing. So I think having a good practice in your life that could do that for you, whether again it's taking a walk, meditating, exercising, doing other things that work for everybody, I think it's definitely a good practice to always stay in harmony with that, because that is really the main driver as to how you can make really good decisions. And at the end of the day, decision making is the most important thing, because we're all the sum of the decisions that we have made. And especially again, as an entrepreneur, it can affect your clients, your teams, and all of that. So I think those two things come to mind right away from some of the content of the book, but just some practical things that we can do to always ensure that we are connected to that source that we all have to be able to make the best decision for us, and like the reason why we made it. Because a lot of times we make decisions out of fear, or decisions out of we should do something, or maybe just the comparison problem that we have with competitors, and you lose focus, and it's very easy to get distracted that way. So just having your go-to, I think it's really an important piece in the journey.
And Elona, I really value that, because today more than ever, we need that solitude to reflect. Yet the social programming tells us to do everything but that. So when I'm in that solitude, do you have a favorite question or two for yourself that you're asking yourself that really would bring up the blind spots, or, hey, I did this, but looking back on it, I really could have done it differently. Perhaps I could have done this or that. What would be a question or two that you'd ask yourself?
Yeah, I think so. It's really sitting with whatever specific questions that we have at the moment to clarify as to what could be the next step, and just feeling intuitively how we respond to that physically. I think it's been something that's been very important with making good decisions, or the right decisions for me at least. So asking, whatever question you need an answer around and just sitting with it until you get the clarity over the expansion piece or maybe the contraction piece, which would be more like a no-go or, okay, I think this is the right way to go. It's a Marie Folio concept, but I've also over the years, I've really seen how when you tap into this, it's really available for us. We just have to clean up some of the noise to get to that level of clarity. But I think there's no specific question. It's just a matter of whatever you need to clarify, just sitting with it and reflecting and letting the answer come to us and then take the next step, especially for really important decisions. I understand that I don't always sit around for every decision to do that, but I think for most important life and business decisions, taking that time is really going to save us a lot of heartache, headache, and making mistakes in the wrong direction because we didn't take the time to listen to what would be the next step that we come up with or we clarify in the moment.
And as you're talking about that, you're actually taking me to chapter 6 in the book, how to create a truly purpose-driven company. And I know, Elona, I've been on both sides of that. When I started my e-learning company, Embedded, it was really purpose-driven. It had nothing to do with the money. In fact, I would write the check, and I did in the early years to be in that business. I just loved it so much. I was helping to solve a very painful problem, very successful. It shouldn't have been successful on paper, but it was. And then flip the script. I have my exit. I've had the success. I now have the capital. I have the experience. I have the business partners and the team. And I apply that to another company. And that other company was not purpose-driven other than my own ego and greed. And that company on paper should have been a smashing success. And wow, it was a huge failure. So for Deep Bolt Nation, as they're listening in, what would you suggest to them of how they can really do a reality check? Are they running a purpose-driven company or are they not? And if they're not, how do we change that?
I think it's, again, taking the time and seeing what you have created and seeing if that is in alignment with what you wanted out of the phase and stage of life that you're in, asking those deeper questions as to what you really want. I think a lot of times we shy away from what we want because, again, we feed our ego and we could be doing it for the wrong reason. But when we actually come to the table with truth and clarity, then we can take a look around and see, okay, is this something that I'm really happy and fulfilled with, or do I need to change something based on the direction that I am going? But I think that check is really important, and connecting it or checking it against your values, where you want to be in the future, the vision that you have for your life, and just doing those checks frequently. It's not an exercise that we just do once and be like, okay, I'm done. It's like personal development at the beginning of it, because it was so hard and challenging to take a look at some of the things that were holding me back personally. I wish I could just do this work and finish for the rest of my life, but I don't think it's anything like that. It's a matter of evolution. And we evolve as humans. I'm not the same entrepreneur when I started to now, because we gain experience, we gain wisdom, we make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes, and it keeps changing, right? I don't think purpose is a definite thing. It's not like we know our purpose and that's really all there is. It's just like daily checks of, am I really feeling good about where I am now and where I'm going? And just making decisions that are in alignment with that. It's not like a one definite purpose thing, which is good for, especially me at the beginning where I'm like, oh my God, I need to discover my purpose, like such a big project. It's just, again, just connecting those dots in our day to day and just trying to stay true to those things that really make us happy and help us shine in the world, because we all have our unique ways that we are able to do that as people. So I think it's just paying attention and just being conscious, with trying to be as conscious as possible with how we make decisions and how we live our daily lives and the actions that we take.
Yeah, and as you're talking about that, again, you're bringing me back to a different part of the book, and I was actually pleasantly surprised to see it because it's not often talked about out there. You talk a lot about empathy, and I know for most, when I mention the word empathy, immediately people think, well, if I'm empathetic, I am weak. I'm not a good leader. I'm showing my cracks to the outside world. I need to be, as a leader, tough and mission driven and always having my eye on the ball. When in my own experience, and you can agree or disagree, when a leader isn't empathetic, you're actually missing a whole part of effective leadership. So when it comes to empathy, what would you want us to know, Elona, of empathy and how we can incorporate that and the why behind being empathetic in terms of what it'll do from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing that concept up. It's been a concept that obviously it's taken me a while to be empathetic because I believe it starts with self. We can't be empathetic towards other people unless we have empathy for ourselves. And we start to develop some sort of strong sense of who we are and the love that we need to give ourselves before we can do that for other people. Otherwise, it's just another business objective to just be more empathetic leaders, but that's fake. And people can see through fakeness when you are not true to yourself. So I think just having those practices for your own personal self, when you make mistakes, not to be harsh on yourself, right? And just to learn from the experience and move on, or gratitude. Those are some really strong principles to keep us more on the positive end of things when obviously we need to make tough decisions or we need to operate in our daily operations of our business and personal lives. And then obviously, once we have done that for ourselves, I think it's just going to be a natural thing we do for others because at the end of the day, our teams just want to feel seen and heard, right? That's really at the core of human needs, our human needs, and the thing that we want most as individuals. We just try to pursue this in different ways. For the longest for me was to overachieve and always be the person that was doing the best and was performing at the highest level. We just seek this in different ways. For other people to be validation from external sources or people pleasing. So I think the more we do that for ourselves and we connect with that, then we can also do this for our teams and make that part of our daily communication or culture where people can really feel safe. And I think studies have shown that what that can do for your performance and for your engagement levels and for your developing your teams and top talent and all of that. Because when people feel seen and heard, they're going to do more, they're going to produce more, they're going to feel connected to you, your culture, they're going to grow with you, they're going to stay with you for a long time because you're meeting other needs besides their money or their paychecks. Which, by the way, I realized that was not enough. Every time I would get motivated or think that money was motivating me, I was really happy for about like a day or two. And then I'm like, oh, that was it. There's got to be something else that keeps us connected to each other. So I think implementing that in the culture is a really powerful thing to show up every day within that truth and be empathetic for self and others.
And what's interesting, Elona, you talk about culture in the book, and it's a strong part of a purpose and profit-driven enterprise and one that's going to be successful. And for me, and you can share Jeffrey on base, off base, with the culture, it's usually a direct reflection of the leadership. And so if the leadership is going back to what we're talking about, if leadership is empathetic, caring, understanding, you're likely going to have a culture that reflects that and mirrors that back. If the leadership isn't, it'll be the opposite of that. And so one of the questions I have for you, and would love some of your insights, what is it about the human condition when people see that okay, Jeffrey's got some flaws, but you know what? I can relate to that. I actually see some of the same flaws in Jeffrey that I have in me. I like the guy, or hey, Jeffrey's coming off perfect. I don't think I like this guy. So what's going on there with the human condition that showing some of our vulnerability and also that we're empathetic along the way with that? What's there that makes us more relatable as a leader?
I think it's that we want to have common points of connection as humans, right? So if I also see that you've been through something similar that I might be going through, or maybe I went through in the past, you will understand me better. Even when we build relationships, we definitely connect more with people that we have a lot of likes with, things in common. So I think that is what it is about human condition. We connect with things that are similar to us. So it's the same with showing vulnerability and speaking from your heart, or, telling the truth and leading with integrity. I think that's another very important value when it comes to culture and a principle really for life and business, to lead with integrity, because if trust is broken, that's kind of where everything falls apart. And to me, it's always seemed easier in life to just be who I really was and tell the truth than kind of try to put up facades or other faces or other things to be able to fit in or do things that were not in alignment with me. That to me seems like a lot more work. So imagine having to do that, plus all the other things that are necessary. So when you let all the armor down it's so freeing, going back to what we started with our conversation, just free. You don't have to pretend anymore. You are who you are. And the right people will appreciate that, and the wrong people will rebel against that. But I've realized that, especially in leadership roles, that is the thing that gets people to even align with your vision, because everybody can appreciate somebody that's true and that they can trust. That's really the ultimate mission of a leader, that people unite with your vision and your mission. So those are some of the concepts and the values to explore when it comes to that part of leadership.
And Elona, as we're talking about leadership, we're talking about purpose and profits and mission and culture, all those things. Let me ask you this, and you do touch upon this in the book itself. And again, Deep Wealth Nation, go to the show notes, pick up the book, Visionary Purpose-Driven Leadership. What I'm wondering, though, is as we speak today, artificial intelligence, AI, is changing the landscape, not just of business, but also of life. And there seems to be two kinds of camps or verticals. On the one hand, I know nothing about AI, haven't been great with technology, I just don't get it, I'm just going to ignore it. And the other, hey, yeah, I'm into this AI thing and I'm really loving it. When it comes to leadership, though, and we talked about being empathetic and being vulnerable, we can certainly empathize and be vulnerable. Hey, I don't understand this AI, but we need to understand it as a company. Who's going to help us do that? But where do you stand on AI? What would you want us to know from a leadership perspective about artificial intelligence today and likely where it's going down the road? Any good insights, best guesses?
Yeah, I think just like anything, I mean, we're in the information age right now, right? With AI, there's information at fingertips. AI cannot provide transformation. So I think that's where humans still step in. Obviously, I can't predict, no one can predict what the future holds, but just like anything, just like even when internet was discovered, there's things that people always shy away from, new things, because it's always scary. The uncertain part is what scares us as humans. But it's here, right? And it's everywhere. And we're seeing advancement every day. So I always say, rather than fight the enemy, just try to use it as a tool. And let's take a look at how we can implement to make our day-to-day operation, the things we do, better, and use it as that tool that it needs to be. Because, yeah, we can take the approach of, I don't care about it, or I don't believe in it, and fall behind because it's here and it's advancing every day. So rather than resist as much as you can, try to learn about it, try to see how you can implement it as the tool that it should be, so that you can improve the things that you do without obviously compromising humanity or maybe your brand or other things. We can talk about AI all day because you could take so many different concepts around it. But just like anything, I think learn from it, see how you can implement it and manage it as a tool that it is, and see how is it that it can make your life better and your team's life better. Because I don't think that, if we just ignore it, it's going to go away. So let's face it and try to grow with it, just like everybody else.
Be open, be curious, do some experiments. I love the advice that we're getting. And Elona, let me ask you this. Speaking of advice, before we go into the wrap-up mode, was there a question? I know there's many questions I haven't yet had a chance to ask, but is there a question I haven't yet asked, or a topic or message we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the Deep Wealth Nation before we go into wrap up?
The question that companies always have around leading with purpose first and then aligning profits, the sustainability piece is definitely way above when we just lead with profits, especially in today's environments where your teams are seeking different things from your company, or why they work there, or from your culture, and also what your customers and your clients are seeking. So I think evolving that way and flipping the script in a way, because traditionally business has been more on the other end, definitely leads for more sustainable business success and more fulfillment, which at the end of the day, if we could do both, why not? Because it's available to us.
Some terrific insights and advice out there. We've skated around this, but we haven't gone directly into it. And so let me ask you this, because as we're talking about leadership and aligning profit and purpose, there's some mindset shifts that we're going to need to do as a leader, and then have that in our team to really get them to where we want them to be. But you speak about legacy, and I'm wondering, what does legacy mean to you, and where do you see legacy going? Because it seems to be a word and a concept that's always on the move and always changing.
Yeah, I think it's the impact. That's what comes up for me. What is the impact that you want to leave? What is the mark that you want to leave behind? And that to me is the definition of legacy. It's so different for all of us based on our own individual journeys and motivations and gifts, sort of the things we do well and all of that, different factors. But to me, yeah, if I were to simply ask that question or even ask it to myself, it's like, what was the impact that I want to make maybe right now or in the next 5 years, in the next 10, 20? It's the contribution and service. What would that look like for me? And there you go. That by definition, I think that's how I would define like what is the legacy I want to leave behind, and trying to stay as close as possible to the life that we want to create that is in alignment with that answer. And always repeating that exercise, obviously, as we evolve, because that does really change. And don't be afraid to change, because that's another thing. As humans, we think like we have to stay stuck and fit into certain molds. We think that we connected to our identity, but being very lucid as humans and just kind of understanding that we're always evolving and that definition always will evolve. It's really okay and gives us a lot of freedom to choose different things if something is not working for us. And always having that in mind as we make our choices and decisions.
Some great insights there. And actually, as we speak about legacy and we look back so we can look forward, it's a great segue to our wrap up. Elona, here on the Deep Wealth Podcast, it's our tradition where it's my privilege and pleasure to ask the same question to every guest. It's a fun question. Let me set this up for you. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. Elona, it's tomorrow morning. This is the fun part. You look outside your window. Not only do you see the DeLorean car curbside, the door is open, waiting for you to hop on in, which you do. And you're now going to go to any point in your life. Elona, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, Elona, do this, but don't do that. What would that sound like?
No, never to stop discovering what is inside of me.
Okay, I like that. So never stop discovering what's inside of me. And as you say that, is there a particular moment that's coming to mind, or is it a collection of different experiences?
I feel very connected to nature lately, where all the noise is away from us. And we have that time to connect with nature when there's not much else happening, just beautiful nature. And the fact that you just get to be there and explore that piece and see what comes up with that. I think that's what's coming up for me.
It's a beautiful insight and something to take into our day. And before we officially wrap up, someone in the Deep Wealth Nation, they want to get in touch with you. They want some coaching with you. They have a question. Where would be the best place online to reach you?
LinkedIn for sure, as Elona Lopari, and the website, elonaloparicoaching.com. It's a small hub of some of the work I've done, but also some free resources they can find that would be helpful to them.
Terrific. And Deep Wealth Nation, it does not get any easier. It's a point and click. It's all in the show notes. Well, Elona, it's official. Congratulations. This is a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribes, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. one business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank. It's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.